Explosive, tennis referee destroyed after stealing match from fan favorite. The scandal that has the entire sport in meltdown. Welcome back to Court Vision Plus, where we don't just report the scores, we rip open the controversies that everyone else is too scared to touch. And before we dive into today's absolute bombshell, I need you to do something right now. Hit that subscribe button. Smash it. And while you're at it, head over and subscribe to our brand new channel, Court Vision Plus, because we're bringing you exclusive content that will blow your mind. Turn on those notifications because what we're about to reveal today is going to send shockwaves through the entire tennis world. Today we're talking about the Australian Open. We're talking about a match that had everything. Drama, passion, a rocking crowd that turned a tennis court into a football stadium, and a comeback for the ages. But here's the twist that nobody saw coming. We're now learning that the person who was supposed to be the neutral guardian of fairness, the chair umpire, may have been the biggest player in the match. And not in a good way. Reports are exploding across social media and through insider channels that chair umpire Aurelie Root is facing what sources are calling a record-breaking penalty following her handling of the first-round clash between Alexandra Ila of the Philippines and American Alicia Parks. We're talking about accusations of systematic errors, questionable judgment calls, and what fans are now openly calling point stealing. The kind of controversy that could end careers and change how we look at officiating forever. This isn't about a missed line call. This isn't about a ball that was in or out. This is about something far more insidious. This is about the allegation that a referee inserted herself into the outcome of a match in ways that directly benefited one player while crushing the spirit and momentum of another. And if these reports are true, if this penalty is as severe as we're hearing, then we are witnessing a historic moment in tennis. A moment where the untouchables are finally being held accountable. So buckle up, because we're about to take you through every explosive detail of what went down on Court 6 in Melbourne, why the tennis world is calling for justice, and what this means for the future of the sport. This is the story of how Alexandra Ila's Australian Open dream turned into a nightmare, and how one referee's alleged misconduct has put the entire tournament under a microscope. Let's set the stage. The Australian Open, the first Grand Slam of the year, the jewel of the Asia-Pacific tennis calendar. It's January in Melbourne, the sun is blazing, and the tennis is supposed to be world-class. Enter Alexandra Ila, the 20-year-old sensation from the Philippines who has been turning heads and winning hearts with her aggressive baseline game and fearless attitude. She's ranked inside the top 100, she's got a Grand Slam junior title under her belt, and she's carrying the hopes of an entire nation that doesn't often get to celebrate tennis success on this stage. Her opponent is Alicia Parks, an American with a huge serve and a game that can go from brilliant to chaotic in the span of 3 points. Parks has the power, she has the pedigree, but she also has a reputation for being mentally fragile when things don't go her way. On paper, this is a match that could go either way. But on Court 6 that day, for one glorious set, it looked like it was going only one way. Ila's way. Court 6 was absolutely rocking. If you've never experienced a tennis match with a crowd that sounds like it belongs at a World Cup qualifier, then you missed something special. Ila's fans showed up in force. We're talking Filipino flags waving, organized chants, the kind of energy that makes the hair on your arms stand up. This wasn't polite golf clapping. This was raw, passionate support. And for the first hour of that match, it was working like rocket fuel for Ila. She came out firing on all cylinders. Her forehand was a laser. Her movement was pristine. She was reading Parks' serve like it was written in neon lights. And Parks, for her part, looked completely overwhelmed. The crowd was in her head. Ila was in her head. Nothing was working. The first set was a complete and utter demolition. 6-0. A bagel. Ila didn't just win the set, she dominated it in a way that made you think this match would be over in under an hour. Commentators were already talking about Ila's second-round matchup. Fans were celebrating. The energy in that stadium was electric. Parks looked defeated, slumped in her chair during the changeover, and the general consensus was that this was going to be a straight sets beatdown. But then something changed. And this is where our story takes a dark turn. As the second set began, the vibe shifted. It wasn't a sudden tactical adjustment from Parks. It wasn't like Hila suddenly forgot how to play tennis. No, the change came from the chair. Aurélie Thurout, the chair umpire, started to take control of the match in a way that raised eyebrows immediately. Witnesses in the stadium and those watching the broadcast began to notice a pattern. Every time Hila's fans erupted after a big point, Thurout was there with a finger in the air and a stern warning. Play was stopped. The crowd was lectured. The momentum was killed. Now, let's be clear. Crowd control is part of an umpire's job. If fans are being disruptive during play, if someone's phone goes off during a point, if there's movement in the background that affects a player's concentration, the umpire has the authority and the responsibility to step in. But what happened on Court 6 went beyond routine crowd management. It crossed the line into what many are now calling selective enforcement. Hila's supporters were being policed with an iron fist. But here's the thing. Parks was also engaging with the crowd. She was gesturing, she was yelling back, she was feeding off the tension.
Probably because I won it
and
before.
Yet, there were no warnings for Parks about managing her emotions or respecting the opponent's concentration. There were no stoppages when Parks screamed after an error or glared into the stands. The disciplinary energy seemed to flow in only one direction. Toward Hila. And this is where the accusations of stolen points come into play. In tennis, points can be influenced in ways that don't show up on a simple scoreboard. A time violation here, a code violation there, a questionable call about a hindrance or distraction. These are the invisible weapons that can bleed a player's confidence and disrupt their rhythm. Multiple reports from fans who were courtside and analysts who have reviewed the footage suggest that Thurout made a series of procedural calls that disproportionately penalized Hila during critical moments in the second set. One incident that has become particularly infamous involves a breakpoint situation. Hila was serving, the crowd was loud, and Parks appeared to be distracted or bothered by the noise. Thurout stopped the point before it was played, walked down from her chair, and spent what felt like an eternity addressing the crowd. By the time play resumed, Hila's serving rhythm was completely shattered. She double faulted. The break was gone. The set began to slip away. Then there was the matter of a close line call that went against Hila during another crucial game. In the modern era, we have Hawkeye. We have technology that can tell us within millimeters whether a ball was in or out. But on certain courts and in certain situations, that technology isn't always immediately available or the call stands based on the umpire's judgment. In this case, Hila hit what appeared to many observers to be a clean winner that clipped the line. The call from the line judge was out. Hila looked to the chair for an overrule. Thurout didn't budge. The point went to Parks. Hila's frustration was visible. Her body language screamed disbelief. These moments add up. They compound. And for a player who is trying to close out the biggest win of her young career, they are absolutely devastating. The second set became a battle not just against Parks, but against the mounting sense that the match was being taken out of her hands. Parks, to her credit, seized the opportunity. She started to find her serve. She started to hit her spots. The crowd, sensing the shift and confused by the constant interruptions, became anxious. The party atmosphere turned tense. And Hila, visibly rattled, lost the second set 6-3. Now we arrive at the third set, and this is where the story becomes truly heartbreaking. Hila was no longer playing with the freedom and confidence she had in the first set. She was tentative. She was looking over at the umpire's chair after every point, as if waiting for the next interruption, the next lecture, the next call that would go against her. The joy was gone. The fearlessness was gone. And Parks, who had been on the verge of a humiliating defeat, suddenly looked like the favorite. The crowd tried to rally behind Hila, but their cheers were now tinged with desperation rather than celebration. They knew something was wrong. They could feel it. And every time they raised their voices, Thurout was there to silence them. It became a vicious cycle. The fans wanted to support their hero, but their support was being weaponized against her. Parks took the third set 6-2. The match was over. From 6-love up to a loss in 3 sets. It's the kind of scoreline that gets analyzed in sports psychology textbooks. The mainstream narrative that emerged immediately after the match was predictable. Ilya choked. The pressure got to her. The crowd became a distraction rather than an advantage. Parks showed champion's heart and mental toughness. But there was another narrative forming, one that was far more explosive and far more damaging to the credibility of the tournament. And that narrative was that Alexandra Ilya didn't lose that match. It was taken from her. Within hours of the final point, social media was on fire. Filipino tennis fans, who are some of the most passionate and knowledgeable in the world, were posting video clips, timestamps, and frame-by-frame analysis of Turc's decision-making. The hashtag that emerged was brutal and unambiguous. People were calling it match-fixing. They were calling it bias. They were calling it theft. And the anger wasn't just coming from casual fans. Tennis analysts, former players, and even some current players began to weigh in, expressing concern about what they had witnessed. The specific accusations against Turc began to crystallize. First, there was the allegation of inconsistent crowd management. Why were Ilya's fans being constantly warned and interrupted while Parks was allowed to engage with and even antagonize the crowd without consequence? Second, there were questions about the timing of Turc's interventions. Why did the stoppages always seem to come at moments when Ilya had momentum? Why did they always seem to benefit Parks by giving her extra time to regroup? Third, there were the procedural calls themselves. The line call that wasn't overruled. The time violations that were threatened but never enforced equally. The overall sense that Turc had decided, consciously or unconsciously, that the match needed to be more competitive. And this is where we get to the heart of the controversy. Did Aurélie Turc look at a 6-love first set and decide that it was bad for the tournament, bad for the broadcast, bad for the sport to have such a lopsided match? Did she feel sympathy for Parks, a player from a major tennis nation, and subconsciously start making calls that would help her back into the match? Or worse, was there something more calculated at play? These are the questions that have been swirling for days. And now we're learning that the authorities have been asking the same questions. Alexandra Ilya represents something bigger than herself. She represents the rise of Asian tennis. She represents the possibility that a kid from Manila can make it on the biggest stages in the world. And when she gets to that stage and feels like the deck is stacked against her, it sends a message to every young player in the Philippines and beyond. It says maybe this sport isn't for you. Maybe you'll never get a fair chance. That's a message that the tennis world cannot afford to send. The alleged record-breaking penalty against Aurélie Turc, if it comes to fruition, would be a step in the right direction. It would show that the authorities are willing to hold their officials accountable. It would show that no one is above scrutiny. But it also needs to be followed by systemic change. There needs to be better training for umpires on managing diverse crowds. There needs to be clearer guidelines on when and how to intervene in crowd situations. There needs to be more transparency in how officials are evaluated and disciplined. And there needs to be a mechanism for players to seek redress when they feel they've been wronged. Because at the end of the day, tennis is supposed to be about the players. It's supposed to be about the competition, the skill, the drama of two people battling it out within the lines of the court. When an official becomes the story, something has gone very wrong. And in Melbourne, on Court 6, something went very wrong. As we wait for official confirmation of the penalty and more details about what exactly the review found, the court of public opinion has already rendered its verdict. Aurélie Turc failed in her duty. She allowed personal judgment or incompetence or bias to infect a match that should have been decided purely by the players. And Alexandra Ilya was the victim of that failure. Whether or not the punishment fits the crime is something we'll have to wait and see. But one thing is certain. This controversy has changed the conversation around officiating in tennis. It has shone a spotlight on issues that have been festering beneath the surface for years. And it has given voice to players and fans who have felt powerless in the face of bad calls and questionable decisions. The story of this match will be told for years. It will be a cautionary tale for umpires who think they can get away with inconsistent officiating. It will be a rallying cry for players from underrepresented nations who demand to be treated with respect. And it will be a reminder to all of us that sports are only as fair as the people entrusted to uphold the rules. So where do we go from here? For Ila, the focus has to be on moving forward. She has the talent. She has the work ethic. She has the support of millions of fans who believe in her. This setback, as devastating as it was, doesn't define her career. She will have more chances. She will have more big matches. And hopefully, she will have officiating that allows her to win or lose on her own terms. For Turut, this is a defining moment. If the reports of a record-breaking penalty are true, her career at the highest level of tennis may be over. She will be remembered not for the hundreds of matches she officiated competently, but for this one match where everything went wrong. That's the harsh reality of being in a position of authority. Your mistakes are magnified. Your failures are public. And in the age of social media and instant replay, there is nowhere to hide. For the Australian Open and the broader tennis establishment, this is a wake-up call. They can no longer afford to be complacent about officiating standards. They can no longer afford to sweep controversies under the rug. The fans are watching. The players are watching. And they're demanding better. If tennis wants to be taken seriously as a global sport, if it wants to continue to grow and attract new audiences, it has to ensure that every match is fair, every call is consistent, and every player is given an equal opportunity to succeed. This has been one of the most explosive stories of the tennis season, and it's far from over. As more information comes out, as the investigation concludes, as the penalty is officially announced, we will be here to cover every single development. Because this matters. This matters to Ila. This matters to every player who has ever felt like they got a raw deal from an official. And this matters to the integrity of the sport we all love. We want to hear from you. Did you watch the match? What did you think of the officiating? Do you believe Aurélie Turut should face severe consequences, or do you think this is all being blown out of proportion? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Let's have a real conversation about this. Let's not let this issue fade away. Let's keep the pressure on until we get answers and until we get real change. If you found this deep dive valuable, if you appreciate the fact that we're not afraid to tackle the tough stories, then show us some love. Hit that like button. Share this video with every tennis fan you know. Let's make sure this story reaches as many people as possible. And of course, subscribe to Court Vision Plus. We are committed to bringing you the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth about what's really happening in the world of tennis. And don't forget to also subscribe to our brand new channel, Court Vision Plus, where we're expanding our coverage to bring you even more exclusive content, deeper analysis, and the stories that matter most. Tennis is a beautiful sport. It's a sport of honor, tradition, and incredible athleticism. But it's also a sport that has problems. And the only way those problems get fixed is if we shine a light on them. If we demand accountability. If we refuse to accept mediocrity or corruption or bias. So thank you for being part of this community. Thank you for caring about fairness. And thank you for demanding better. Until next time, keep your eyes on the court, because clearly, we can't always trust the people in the chair to do their jobs. Stay passionate, stay informed, and we'll see you in the next one.
Alors, je m'appelle Aurélie Tourte, je suis arbitre badge d'or et je suis arbitre professionnel pour le circuit ATP. Alors déjà, il faut savoir que...
Hello mga kababayan sa lahat ng mga nanonood sa Pilipinas at sa lahat ng mga pupunta dito sa Thailand. I'm so excited na lumaban for you guys, for the country. I'm so excited for